Hello.
Hi.
Hello to you at home. Welcome to the channel. Today is August 9th, and we are talking about stick with just the facts. It begins with a quote by Marcus. He says, "Don't tell yourself anything more than what the initial impressions report. It's been reported to you that someone is speaking badly of you. This is the report. The report wasn't that you've been harmed. I see that my son is sick, but not that his life is at risk. So always stay within your first impressions and don't add to them in your head. This way, nothing can happen to you."
Yeah, no, that's a big one for sure because that's what we do constantly. We just add to the facts, right? And the facts are like mostly they're not so dramatic, but we add to them and we make them very dramatic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the four agreements is don't make assumptions. Like, that's how critical this skill is, because so much of my misery is my brain filling in gaps around missing information.
That the brain doesn't actually know, but it will be very happy to make things up and shove them in those
Yeah.
gaps. Yeah, and then it's super confusing because now you're like dealing with facts plus some fiction, right? And now you're like, well, wait, which one is the fact? The fact was this, but I added this, right? Like it can get very confusing, right? Especially if you're doing it for a long time, to like putting these made up stories on top of each other, and it just becomes almost like reality becomes skewed of what it actually is, you know.
That's happening to some extent.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's times when,
To
like,
everyone.
you and I have had, like, disagreements, and I will, like, try to, like, play it back, and I'll be like, oh, well, you said this, and you're like, no, I didn't say that. I said this. And, like, it sounds almost the same, but it's like maybe synonyms or one clause is missing or something. And like if you looked at the sentences on paper, yeah, they're similar, but like clearly my brain like distorted whatever was being said in the moment and then moved it a little bit this way. But if you were like, hey, did you listen to Ollie? Do you know what he said? I would be like, yeah, he said this. Like my brain will even go to like, oh yeah, this is a fact.
Because
it will lie and say
you're not maybe listening to exact words, but you're trying to like get the meaning, right? And then the meaning maybe a little different than what's being said or something, you know?
This is even if I were to try to say like verbatim, verbatim he said this, and my brain will just be like, oh no, he said this other thing, and it will feel like a fact internally. It will not. There's sometimes I know that I'm coloring in between the lines. I'm adding shit into things. Like there's sometimes where that's obvious, but what I'm saying is there's sometimes where it's not obvious. And I'm like, I think I'm being careful. I'm trying to get it the right way, and still my brain is changing it in the moment.
Yeah, and then another thing is it's like sometimes we say something and then that other person takes it and says like, oh, I understand this based on that, right? And it's not that your understanding is wrong. It's that the person who's trying to express whatever they're expressing maybe use the wrong word that's similar to what they meant, but it's actually not exactly that word, but it's a similar word. But that word in this context might mean something else. And so it's like hard to communicate clearly, not clearly like you understand every word, but that the people understand what you actually meant by all
The
of
meaning,
that, the
yeah.
meaning of all of it. And that's the difficult part because like I can say a million words, But will everyone understand the same thing based on what I said? Like, no, they're gonna understand other things.
And that's even there, I could say, is an assumption of like, I assume that I know what you're talking about because the words that you're using, I have my own map of meaning inside me of what those words are. And I'm assuming that that map of meaning is the same between us. And so now I listen to something that you say and I assume I get it.
Right. And then now it could be like, what are you saying? You're a crazy person, right? But the person is like, no, I just used this word wrong, and now the understanding is totally different, and you're getting maybe triggered by the understanding of the concept, but that's the wrong part. Now it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Now you have to bring it back. Hey, clear it up. This is what I meant. This is what was said.
I mean, this is like clearing up for me that, like, in these instances where there is sort of like this misunderstanding, disagreement, me blowing things out of proportion, like, I need to be very strict with my attention and say, let me keep putting my attention back on the facts, whether it's the fact of a situation or a fact of, well, what did the other person say? Or what did the other person mean by what they said? Because my brain will sometimes be so latched onto the assumptions that I've made.
Right, but the thing is, it's like you might still be latched on the, I'm gonna stick with facts, and these are the facts, and I'm sticking with these facts, but those facts are also not the facts, right? So it's like,
well, this is what I mean by like, it's like a perpetual investigation.
It has to be calm. Once the person is calm during it, it's like, okay, hold on. I'm not understanding this. Like, let me wait. What's going on? Let me see. I said something. Like, if they're investigative, that's when I feel like they're open to understand it, right? Versus sometimes it's like I'm gonna use this tool and these rules in order to get to the bottom of something, right? But as they're doing it, it's bothering them. They're aggravated. They're triggered, right? And they're trying to get to something while they're triggered, and then that's not working, right? Because the other person is like, well, I don't want to talk to a triggered person right now about this. They're triggered. This has to be first calm, right? So it's like there are also that is a confusion, right? Somebody is just like, I don't understand you, because they're just now maybe fearful. Now they're changing the way they're expressing it. It's so complicated and confusing, perhaps, both, right? Yeah, it's complicated and it can be very confusing of what is being actually communicated. Yeah, it's just more clarification. Just keep clarifying. And
that's what I meant by what I said. It was like, just that's my job is to continue to investigate, continue to clarify.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
if I mean what I said, and if you understand what I said, do we have the same meaning? Yeah. And that's hard when we're in the middle of being triggered, right? Because now that requires like, okay, I'm triggered, and now I have to, on top of it, be this analytical person, right? That's hard to wear both of those hats. Not what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah, you're talking about in a case where you're like worked up about something.
Worked up.
So then it's it's better to take a break until you can come back and not be triggered by the whole thing.
Yeah, because now you're doing two things. You're being triggered and you're focusing on that. Plus you're trying to, at the same time, resolve something analytically, and it's like you're here and then you go here and it's like you're in two, it's just, you're not focused on the one thing. Yeah, cool. All right.
You want to read Ryan?
Yeah, let's do it. Mm-hmm.
At first, this can seem like the opposite of everything you've been taught. Don't we cultivate our minds and critical thinking skills precisely so we don't simply accept things at face value? Yes, most of the time, but sometimes this approach can be counterproductive. What a philosopher also is the ability, as Nietzsche put it, to stop courageously at the surface and see things in plain, objective form. Nothing more, nothing less. Yes, Stoics were superficial, he said, out of profundity. Today, while other people are getting carried away, that's what you're going to practice. A kind of straightforward pragmatism. seeing things as their initial impressions make them.
Cool. You good?
Yep.
Sweet.
Nice.
See you guys tomorrow.